channel. As my dearest brothers and sisters, this is Hakann speaking. I greet you in peace and love. My message from last week was, Hakann, we will likely intervene in 2024 or 2025. In it I shared that if we intervened, then things may turn out fine, but there was a small chance of there being, for example, 100 years of instability afterwards. People had questions about that, so I'll share my perspective on this in more detail. Now, few people are as outright evil as the dark controllers are. However, many people on Earth at this time prioritize either the strength of their own nation, or the strength of what they perceive as their group, or some supposed greater good over the well-being and freedom of others. Several countries also have realpolitik considerations that basically say that at all times you must be working to protect your nation from the worst possible thing that your rival could do. According to realpolitik, conquering or exploiting innocent other countries is a viable option if that makes you safer or better able to defend yourself. But of course, if some countries are willing to exploit or conquer other countries to protect themselves from moves that their rivals could make, then everyone is unsafe. Then many countries start behaving in this more or less psychopathic way to ensure their own safety. If we remove the dark controllers and their institutions, then humanity will be much strengthened. You will be less poisoned, you will recover the technology that the dark controllers suppressed, and you will have less of your money and productivity stolen by them. However, then it's possible that whoever comes into power next won't conclude, "Great, let's now all live in peace." It's entirely possible that they will then conclude, "Great, now let's establish hegemony for my country," or "Great, now let's quickly weaponize this new technology and destroy my rival before they figure out how to weaponize it," or "Great, now we're able to force socialism on everyone, whether they want to or not, for the greater good, of course." There could also be a movement by some people to seek to make nations much less powerful and establish a one-world government, and that could genuinely have good intentions, but that could become corrupted. And while I know that many people are very much against a one-world government, many others would support such an initiative. So basically, if we remove the dark controllers, we're removing a heavy load from the shoulders of your countries, as well as giving your countries a big hammer, the suppressed technology. Now fundamentally we do wish to empower you. And if you used that hammer to build something that helps the people, then that would be great. However, at your current state of consciousness, it's entirely possible that your countries will use their new hammer to attack rival countries, or to build an even stricter system of authoritarianism. As an illustration for this, near the end of World War II, the British seriously considered surprise attacking the Soviet Union. This was called Operation Unthinkable. This illustrates that even during times when the people desire relief and peace, and when peace is possible, it was the end of World War II, there are always realpolitik people and ideologues around who will use any opportunity to launch a new war. Yes, there will be many people who will genuinely wish to live in freedom and peace, and to let others live in freedom and peace. However, those people don't tend to actively seek power, and don't tend to play ruthless power games to get power. So even if we removed the dark controllers, it's entirely possible that they would be replaced with other dark grey people, who would seek to, for example, quickly weaponize the new technology and attack their neighbors. Also, most people tend to naively assume that whoever their leaders are, those leaders can be blindly trusted to work in the interest of the people. Again, I'm not saying that if we intervene then this is guaranteed to happen. But yes, there is a small probability that if we intervene and there's no solar flash or splitting of timelines, then Earth humans will spend the next, say, 100 years painfully going through struggles of imperialism and authoritarianism, and we will force the people to comply for the supposed greater goodism. We're convinced that eventually you will learn your lessons, but those lessons might be painful and might take quite a long time. If we intervene, there is a probability that for some time afterwards you could be ruled over by new dark grey hats who will still start wars and try to force their citizens to comply. This is what we mean when we talk about instability. We're not going to preemptively arrest every person who might do bad things if the dark controllers are removed. If we arrest the dark controllers, we're then not going to also arrest every dark grey hat who gets into office. We can't just keep arresting people, and we will not rule over you. We can't teach you to value freedom by forcing you down the road to freedom. You are going to have to learn to live together with other humans, without trying to exploit each other or try to force each other to comply for the supposed greater good. If the currently relatively powerful people have to go through the painful process of freeing Earth themselves, then we think they come out of this process valuing freedom and transparency more. Whereas we think that if we intervene and solve humanity's problem ourselves, then if those relatively powerful people get into full power, they will be more likely to want to engage in imperialism or force the people to comply for the supposed greater good-ism. Note that we're not quite making the same argument as the grey hats here. The grey hats often make the argument that it's okay to let average people suffer in order to wake them up. We don't agree. We think humanity should free itself as quickly as possible, which means that the grey hats should make a move as quickly as possible. We don't want this period to stretch on. Instead, our perspective is that Earth humans should free themselves, so that people in positions of relative power clean out their own house and learn the lesson of freedom in the process. So we're not saying average people should suffer so that they wake up. We're saying the moderately powerful people should ideally solve Earth's problems themselves, so that they then don't turn around and immediately start trying to attack other countries or try to force citizens to comply. We think that many average people are in an emotional survival state. However, many of the people in positions of relative power aren't in such a state, because they typically have more access to money and healthcare and information. Hence these people in positions of relative power who might run your countries in the future often are in an emotional state where they still are able to take action and learn lessons and process information. So these people in positions of relative power could benefit from learning the lesson of freedom, gained by going through the process of actually freeing humanity themselves. Though of course, there's a balance there. On one hand we think it's not wise for us to intervene in 2023, so that Earth humans have a bit more time to free themselves and learn their lessons. But on the other hand, we're not going to let you suffer forever. Which is why in the previous message we shared that if there was no big grey hat move or solar flash, then likely we would intervene in 2024 or 2025. I understand that the picture I'm painting here isn't as neat and pretty as, there's a galactic intervention or solar flash, and then everyone lives in peace and harmony and freedom with each other, forever. If it was that easy, then there would have been a galactic intervention or a solar flash years ago. The reality is that many people are still eager to attack or exploit others for their own or for their country's gain. There are still many people eager to force others to comply for the supposed greater good. And if we intervene, those people could get into power, which could lead to what we've been calling instability. It's entirely possible that if we land openly and we talk to you all face to face, we can help motivate and uplift enough people so that humanity will start living together in peace and freedom and harmony. But it's also possible that we will not be able to convince enough of you, because after all you have free will. You would be surprised how resistant ambitious and powerful people are to suggestions along the lines of, everyone should live in peace and freedom, we'll give you the support you need to accomplish that. Often people with an unintegrated ego have the mindset of, it is not sufficient that I succeed. Everyone else must fail. Because only then, when they live in luxury and other people are struggling, does their ego truly feel superior to everyone else. Whereas if everyone lives in peace and freedom, then they are no longer one of the few powerful and successful people, in a sea of people who are suffering and struggling. If everyone lives in peace and freedom, then they are just another person. And their unintegrated ego doesn't like that. It's a strange mindset for me to wrap my head around, but many Earth humans genuinely are like this, including dark gray people who aren't part of the dark controllers, and again, those people are much more likely to seek power, and play the dirty power games necessary to get power. So basically, we're not just looking at freeing you from the dark controllers. We're also thinking about what happens after that. Because if we intervene and remove the dark controllers, then we are creating a huge power vacuum, and there may very well be dark gray people looking to exploit that power vacuum. Slightly delaying our intervention makes it less likely that there will be instability after the dark controllers are removed. And yes, there can still be a solar flash that shoves everyone into 5D, but as discussed in last week's message, right now that would kill a lot of people. We're hoping that that won't be necessary. Hopefully you will free yourselves, or failing that, we will intervene in probably 2024 or 2025. Hopefully through face-to-face contact we can then help motivate and uplift enough of you that humanity will choose peace and freedom. I hope this clarifies things. Thanks for all your comments and questions. Finally, this is a period where you light workers, the people who we feel the most affinity with, are getting squeezed from all sides. You are the ones who have done the most truth-seeking and self-development and going inwards work. You are incredibly brave and hard-working. Yet as a result, it's quite likely that people treat you worse than they treat sleepers and worse than they treat people who are letting their unintegrated ego run wild. It's completely unfair to you. I'm sorry. The fact that despite this, most of you keep going on, is incredibly impressive and inspiring to us. You're doing amazingly well. You are the ways howers, the lighthouses in the darkness, the energy workers, the consciousness pioneers on Earth, and we are very grateful to you. When we finally land, you will have a place of honor among us and be more than welcome to live among us. We cannot wait to meet you. With love and respect, your star brother, Hakann for Era of Light.